Okay, so you've made it to lesson 1-6, part 2, subtracting fractions. This one's getting hard, guys, so when you're digging around for the answer, watch this video. I'm going to give 3 different scenarios of 3 different ways you're possibly going to see this type of work on your homework, going from easy to definitely a little more complicated. So it's going to be a little longer video today, but you're going to dig around, take your time. You can look at it, pause, fast forward, whatever you got to do, get to the kind of problem you're working on and follow along step by step. You should be okay. Just remember, keep on digging. Digging. It was supposed to say keep on digging. Alright, so we're going to start with like the easiest problem you're going to have on tonight's homework. This one's not so bad. You have you're subtracting, you have a mixed number, you have a fraction, and this is all set up nicely because we always look at our fraction first, and we can do 3 minus 1, no problem. That's 2/9. And 2 minus nothing, you could put a placeholder here if you want. There's nothing in the whole number, is 2, so very easy.
Well, yes.
2 and 2/9, no problems. Alright, okie dokie, here's where it starts getting tricky. I've got 2 mixed numbers to subtract, but the problem is I look at my fractions first. Always look at the fractions first, and I can't do 2 minus 5, so this is what we call a bad problem.
No!
It's bad.
No!
No, it's really bad.
No!
And what you got to do is do some borrowing here. And we learned that in fraction world, so check this out. When you have a fraction, we're dealing with the number 1 whole, and the denominator is in charge of that. So if your denominator is 8, 1 equals 8/8. If your denominator is 5, 1 equals 5/5. If your denominator is 82, 1 equals 82 over 82. They all equal 1. So when you're borrowing with fractions, you're thinking of the number 1. I'm borrowing 1 from the whole number, and I'm adding 1 to the fraction. Your denominator is in charge of that. So, keeping that in mind, I look over here. I can't subtract 2 minus 5, but I can borrow 1 from my number 4. Then it becomes a number 3. When I borrowed 1, what I did was I put 1 over here. And like I said back over here on this sheet, 1 is 8/8. You look over here, 1 is 8/8. So that's still equivalent. What I turn this into is 3, and well, I had 8/8. I had 2/8. So it's 10/8. That's equivalent. 4 and 2/8 is the same as 3 and 10/8. And I still had 3 and 5/8. This is now a problem that I can work with.
Yes.
It really is a good problem.
Yes, 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 yes.
And so I can work with this problem. What I'm going to do is, on your paper it's harder to do this, but on the whiteboard what we were doing in class was erase the old problem. It no longer exists. That problem is gone. It wasn't worth it. We couldn't do it. It was a bad problem.
No!
And we did some work, and then we turned it into a good problem that we can finish. Now it's easy. 10 minus 5 is 5. Denominator stays the same. On this one, 3 minus 3 was 0. There is your answer. Just remember, the key to this whole subtraction thing is when you're borrowing 1, and then the denominator is in charge. Okay, here's the last style you might see tonight for homework. More than might, you will. You got a whole number minus a fraction. This is how it's written on the homework. You got to turn this from horizontally to vertically. That's the way I like to do it. So 3 minus 1/3 is going to look like this. 3 minus 1/3. So it's missing a couple things. It's missing a fraction here. This is not a mixed number. And it's missing a whole number here. This is very difficult. This is a multi-step problem. It's harder.
No!
And we don't like it.
No, no!
It's a bad problem.
No!
But we could fix it up very easily. All we have to do is make what we call apples and apples. Like make them the same thing. Like, well, I'm going to make this one a mixed number just by making it 3 and no thirds. There you go. It's 3 and no thirds. Now I have a mixed number. I'll make this a mixed number also by making it 0. I didn't change the value of anything. All I did was add some information. Now it's still a bad problem.
No!
I'm going to change it to a good problem by borrowing. That's pretty easy. I'm going to change a 3 into a 2. And remember back here, I borrowed a number 1. The denominator is 3 in this case, so the number 1 is going to be 3/3. So I'm adding 3/3. My new number is 2 and 3/3. 2 and 3/3 is the same as 3. All I did was kind of manipulate this fraction here. So we made that a lot better. It's a lot easier to work with that way.
Yes!
And then I'll just move over my 0 and 1/3. Now, what we learned on the last slide applies to this one too. This was a bad problem,
No!
and this is a good problem.
Yeah, baby!
I'm going to get rid of the bad problem. It's gone. Doesn't exist anymore. This is a good problem. Easy to work with. I can do 3 minus 1 is 2/3, and I can do 2 minus 0 is 2. So, 3 ways to deal with subtraction problems. You can do this. No problems. I have faith in you. Digging. It was supposed to say keep on digging. Hey, I dig it. That wasn't so bad. I dig it. Well, not the kind of digging I meant, but I'll take it.